So you want to learn how to build AI chatbot, but you don't know how to code? Well, stick around because in this video, I will show you how you can use a no-code tool called Voiceflow to build AI chatbots that you can then sell to others or use for your own business. The chatbot we're going to build today is going to be a customer support chatbot. First, we're going to start with very basic features, such as using an existing FAQ to answer the user questions or building different paths based on the user's answers. But we're also going to learn how to build more advanced features, such as connecting to the Stripe API, the Airtable API, and even using other no-code tools such as Make to make sure that you can build any bot you want. And because the inspiration for this video is this tweet by Peter Level, the founder of photoai.com, this is the website we're going to use as an example for today. Okay, so let's start building the bot. So let's start with building our bot. So we're going to have to go ahead and create a new assistant. And then we're going to choose the type AI assistant. Okay. This bot is going to be on website, so it's going to be web chat. And the language is going to be English. So let's go ahead and select this. And then if you work with the team, you can add team members here, but that's not the case for me. So I can go ahead and create the assistant. Once you create your assistant, you have a number of pre-filled block and steps. You also have some, resources to help you get started. I won't need any of this, so I'm just going to delete everything like this. Okay. Oh. And now we have a blank page. We can start to create the assistant. The first step is to add a knowledge base over here. And as I said, the inspiration for this chatbot is going to be Photo AI. So let's go ahead and check out the website and the FAQ. So there's several ways you can upload a knowledge base to your Voiceflow bot. The first way and the easiest way is just to use a URL. So you would go ahead and do this. So as you can see here, this didn't work because, well, the problem we have here is that you cannot crawl for the AI's website, so it doesn't work. So it's okay. Let's just delete that. And what we're going to do instead, so what I've done is that I scraped the answers here, and then I just created a PDF document using the data here. So this is what I'm going to upload instead. So I'm going to choose the PDF format. And I'm going to add my database. Once you have the database, what thing you can do is just ask a question to make sure that, well, it's answering correctly. And so let's go ahead and try asking one question. Let's just ask a simple question like, how much does Photo AI cost? Okay, it's working, and let's try with a more complex question. So, Okay, so as you can see, it's working. So what it is going to do is that if you choose the knowledge base as the source to answer a user question, every time the user asks a question, the entire knowledge base will be searched, and then the most relevant information that's relevant to the user question will be selected to answer. Okay, so now that we know that the knowledge base is set up, one thing you can also do is work on the system prompt. So the system prompt is the instruction you're going to give your AI assistant to frame how it should answer the user queries. So here you have different parameters you can play with. You can choose which AI model you're going to use. So either GPT 3, GPT 3.5, Claude, so on and so forth. So I'm going to choose GPT 3.5. I'm going to go with 200 tokens. And I'm just going to up the temperature a little bit. So again, you free to play around with this until you find the best settings for your use case. And then here you can personalize the system prompt with information that are relevant to your business. So for example, if there's a specific tone you want the AI assistant to use, you can just add it here. For me, I'm just going to pick very generic instructions. Okay. The next step is to create our variables, and those are variables we're going to use to store user information and run some API calls later, but I just like to do it in the beginning so that it's done and I don't have to think about it. So to create the variables, you have to go back to the designer interface and click here on NLU model and then variables. So there's already some pre-existing variables, but I'm going to create more. Now let's actually start building the chatbot. For the first question block, what we're going to do is welcome the user and then ask if she or he is already an existing customer. To do this, we're going to add a text block. So here. So we're going to ask, hi, I'm Lisa. Can you let me know if you're an existing photo AI user? One interesting thing you can also do is if you want to have variants, you can also use AI to generate variants here. I don't really like the AI proposals here, so I'm just going to use my message. And then the idea is that we're going to have a different path for users who are already customers of Photo AI and users who are not. For this, we're going to use buttons because there's only two choices the user should be able to pick. So either yes or no. So here I'm going to have a yes button and then a no button. Okay, and we're going to so let's build the first option, the yes option. The idea here is that if the user answers yes, we're going to ask him for his email address. So again, we're going to use a text block for this. Let me just quickly rename this block so that everything is proper and easy to understand. First question, then here we're going to call this email. And then we're going to ask, what's your email address? And we'll use a capture block to capture, well, the user's answer. And instead of here having it set to the variable last utterance, we're going to set it directly to the variable email. Okay, and then we're going to link the path here together so it's connected. Finally, to make sure that everything works, we're going to make sure that we are connecting the start button with this block. Perfect. So now we can go ahead and try and see if everything is working as intended. We don't need to train, so let's just run the test. If you choose, we can also add the debug mode so that we have. So if we choose yes. Perfect. And then let's add a fake email just to see. And here, of course, the session ends because we haven't connected this block to something else. So let's continue building this path. The next step is going to do an API call to retrieve information from a database. For this video, database is going to be Airtable. So this is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting features of Voiceflow, the ability to be able to do API call, because it means that you're going to be able to connect your chatbot to virtually any service that has an API. So that's what we're going to do here. So here's what the example database looks like. So we have the Stripe subscription ID, the first name, the last name, and an email. And to retrieve this information, we're going to use the API endpoint called list API records. Okay, so this is a get request, perfect. So let's build the request. First, I will need to set the Airtable API key variable because we've created the variable previously, but it's still empty, so we'll need to define it here. So let's choose the okay, and here then you can use your own API key. The other variable we need to define is going to be the column where we're going to search for the email. So I created also the search column variable earlier, and so the column name is email. Oh yes, so let's just set it like this. Okay, and I'm just going to add the label here. So that I know what's happening. Perfect. Oops. Let me just do this. And then let's make the request. So it's going to look like this. Again, all of this information is available in documentation over here. Now let's try to send a request and see if it's working. So okay, as you can see here, it's working. So we're getting the fields we're interested in, the same fields that are in our Airtable database. Now let's try with an email that is not in database, just to see what response we will get. So I'm going to try again, send request. So here, what's interesting is that even though there's no matching record, we are getting a 200 response, which means success. So we're going to have to take this into account when we are going to build the rest of the flow. Now that we have this, let's add the user information in the variables we created earlier. So to do this, we are going to once again use the set block that we are going to link, of course, here. So let's call this API call. So what we're doing here is that we're getting the entirety of the fields in this variable, and then we are retrieving each specific field. So for example, here for the last name, and I'm going to do the same for the first name. And the Stripe subscription ID. Next, what we need to do is build two new paths. So the first path is going to be what is going to happen if the user information is found, and what is going to happen if the user information is not found. So in the first case, so if you find the user information, what is going to happen is that we are going to welcome the user. So again, let's say welcome back, and then use the user's first name. And if we cannot find the user information, then we're going to tell the user that we cannot find the information and they're going to need to talk to customer agent. So let's add this. And finally, what we need to do is here add an if block. So the condition is going to be the following. So if the variable fields is empty, then you need to go to the block can't find the user information. So here it is, perfect. And then if it's not empty, it's not going to be a match, so no match. And then we're going to go to the current customer block. So now that we have our yes path, we have to finish building what we started. So we have the yes path, but we need the no path now. So if the user is not an existing Photo AI user, what we're going to do is just welcome the user and ask them how we can help them. So let's just add this test block. Now that we have that, let's actually build the part of the bot that will answer the user questions. So here I'm going to start by using a choice module first, because what I want to be doing is directing the users down the conversation path that is the most relevant to their needs. So I'm going to bring this as well, and we're going to connect it to this path. And this is going to be the main block. Then here I'm going to have two main options. The first option is going to be the cancel intent, because if, for example, the user wants to cancel its subscription, I don't want the AI to answer, but I want the user to go down a very specific path. And I'm going to add a no match options here. And this is where I'm going to link this no match option to a response AI block, so that for all other questions where there's no predefined intent, then I'm going to let the knowledge base answer the user question. So I'm going to do this and no match. Here I'm going to link it to this block. So let me call it the data source is going to be knowledge base, because we want to be using knowledge base to answer. And I'm going to use this prompt. So here, based on the last entry by the user, the bot is going to look inside the knowledge base, find which is the most relevant information to answer the user, and then reply. I've also added this little instruction here. because sometimes if you don't add it, it can say based on the knowledge base, blah blah blah, and I don't want it to be said in a question. I just want the question to be answered straight away, so that's why I've added this. Okay, now we have this. And then what we're going to need also is a block where when we answer a question, well, we ask the user if there's anything else, so that we can keep the conversation going. So let me just add this. Is there anything else I can help you with? And we are going to build a loop. So the loop goes, user asks a question. If it's matched with the intent, then it will go through a specific path that we are going to build after. And if not, then the AI answers. And then, is there anything else I can help you with? And if not, then we are going back to the main block, and then the user is free to ask another question, and then the AI will answer, and so on and so forth. Again, here, if you want to add some variation so that it doesn't look, so that the AI doesn't sound too robotic, we can do that. So let's generate 3 variants so that it's not always, is there anything else I can help you with? So here we have the variants to make the bot sound more natural. Perfect. Okay, let's build the cancel intent now. The idea here is that if the user wants to cancel its subscription, then we can use a Stripe API instead of having a human do it to save time. We can do this by adding an intent here. Then we are going to select the cancel intent. So this is part of the intents that are already built in when you start using Voiceflow. But what's cool as well is that you can enhance those intents and make them more complex and or more tailored to your needs. So if we come here, so if we go here, go to intents, you can extend intents. So for example here, we can add something like, I want to stop using your service. You can also use AI to generate even more examples of user answers that are going to trigger the intent, but I would be very careful here, as if you add too many intents or intents that are not clear enough, then your intent will be triggered by user messages that have nothing to do with the intent. This has happened to me before, so I would be very careful with adding new utterances. And if you see that your intent is not triggered the right way, what you can do is go back to the utterances you've added and adjust them so that it works. I will link to a very good Voiceflow article that was recommended by someone else in the community, and that has helped me understand how to use intents a little bit better. So let's move on to the next step now. Let's add a text block again. Let's say, I'm sorry that you like to cancel your Photo AI subscription. Let me assist you with that process. And as we've done with the Airtable API, we're going to add an API step as well. And this time we're going to use the Stripe API. I'm using the cancel subscription endpoint of the Stripe API. And I am using the test mode so that I'm not making any changes on my real Stripe account. So I've gone ahead off screen and added some of those fake customers over here in my test mode Stripe account. Okay, so let's see how we are building the request. So the API The Stripe API is very easy to use, so it's a simple curl request. Let's go ahead and build it again. So it's going to be the same process as the one we've used with the Airtable API, so I'm going to speed up this part. Just stopping here briefly just to show you how I'm using the variable in my in the URL like this. So this is going to take each user, it's going to each individual customer Stripe subscription ID so that the subscription deletion works. Okay, so let's try to make a request. So we're getting a 200 response, so it means that it works. It's okay. Now let's see what happens if the email doesn't exist or the subscription ID doesn't exist. So let me just create a fake subscription ID. Okay, so we have an error status code. Perfect. So now I'm going to be able to build the rest of the flow. What's going to happen here if the subscription works is that we are going to send a confirmation message to the user to tell them that their subscription has been successfully cancelled. And then I'm going to let the user go back to the main block in case they have any other questions. Okay, we're almost done. The one last thing we need to do before we try our entire flow is to connect this block to the cancel intent, because as you can see here, it's empty. So I'm just going to do this, and we're going to choose action, go to intent, and the intent is going to be cancel. Okay, great. So there we go. So now we can actually go ahead and try our entire bot. Okay, so as you can see here, everything is working as intended. So the subscription has been cancelled. One thing though is that after this, here I added the action go to main block, but it's not the right thing because I rather ask the customer, is there anything else I can help you with? So I'm just going to change here. Let's go back to this. I'm just going to change it, and I'm going to go to the next question block. Perfect. So the one last thing we need to do to complete this entire cancel intent is to add something in case it fails. So what we're going to do is that in case the cancellation fails, an email will be sent to a real customer agent so that somebody, a real human, can take over and look at what's wrong. So let's build this entire flow. First, we should let the customer know that there has been an issue. So we're going to add a text block, and it's going to go something like, there seems to be an issue processing your subscription cancellation. We're going to tie it here, and let's call it cancel fail. Okay. First, we're letting the customer know that there's an issue. Then what we're going to do is that we're going to let the customer know that it's going to receive an email from a customer agent about this issue. So let's create a new text block once again. And let's say, okay, something like one of our team members will be in touch shortly to solve this. Thank you for your patience. So one thing I could do here is just add this text block and just add it here, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to keep this as a standalone block because I want this block here to be connected to this one as well, the one we created earlier, in case the information of the user is not found. So what I'm going to do is just go to block here. So, okay, go to block, and I'm going to call it, I called it email team, and I'm going to do the same for this one. Then now that we've told the customer that somebody would be in touch, well, we need to let team members know that they need to be in touch with this customer. So here there's several ways to go about it. What you could do is, if you use a ticketing service such as Zendesk, you could just use the API to create a ticket. But if you don't, I'm going to show you a very simple and low-cost way to do this using Make. So let's go ahead and open Make. So here what we're going to do is that we are going to add a webhook module. Perfect. So now let's copy this webhook address. We're going to go back to our Voiceflow bot and then again use the API call. Yes. And this time what we're going to do is a post request to, well, the webhook URL we just created. And in the body, what's interesting is that we can pass different parameters. And here, for example, the customer email can be used as a parameter. So the team member knows the email of the customer. I'm going to use the email variable. Cool. And so now what we can do to test is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to send a request. Let's try email at example.com. Okay, and then as you can see, we received the email. Perfect. So now what we can do is use the send an email module. So you could use Gmail for this as well, or this module. Okay, then to add a recipient, let's say here it's going to be your team member email. So I'm just going to use mine as a test, and then as subject we can say something like, and then another thing we can do is, well, the customer email is nice, but we also need to let the team member know what's wrong and what specific issue they need support with. So to do this, let's go back to Voiceflow. And so what we're going to need to do is that every time there is a message that triggers, well, sending an email to a team member, we're going to use this message as an issue variable so that we can then pass it in this request. For example, here, this is the message we're going to be passing as a variable. So we can do this using the set block here, and then we are going to use the variable. We can call it, we can call it issue. Oh, I forgot to create it, so I'm just going to create now. And then we are going to set the last response. So the last response is this as, well, the issue variable. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to set issue variable. So I'm just going to duplicate this block because I'm going to add it over here as well. Okay. And And what else I need to do? Now here I need to, again, because I've added this, a new block, I need to add this again. So go to block called email team. And I need to do it here as well. Okay, and what I'm going to do as well is just test this block here to see if it's working. So what you can do in Voiceflow is that you can test individual blocks if you just click here instead of clicking here. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is perfect, it works. And now I'm just going to modify this request to add, well, the new variable, the new issue variable we just created. So just can go here. We're going to call it issue and do this. Okay, there we go. And let's try to send a request again. I'm just going to do this. Here, I'm just going to unlink this for a minute, just to get the new data. So wait, I'm struggling a little bit here. Okay, let me just do this. Okay, unlink. Then I'm going to use existing data. Perfect. So now we have the customer email and the issue, and then let's link it again. And I'm just going to say they are experiencing this issue. And okay, perfect. So this is great, it's working. Okay, so taking a look at our bot, we are almost finished. So what we are missing now is just, well, something pretty basic. So what happened, for example, after a user says that they don't need any help anymore? Right now, there's nothing that handles this scenario, so we just need to create it. So as we've done here by adding a cancel intent, we just need to do the same by just adding a no intent. So this is already built in with Voiceflow. So I'm just going to do it here. Oops. So I'm just going to call it no. And then if no, then we can just add a message like, I'm glad I could help you solve your issue, blah, blah, blah. If you have any more questions, okay. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to add an end block to, well, finish the conversation. And we're going to call this end conversation. And now we can go back to our main block and add this new choice. So we're going to go new. And it's going to go to the, well, go to intent. No again. No. So there's many more intent we could build, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to stop here. Now that you get how you can build your own intents and how you can add them to your bot. And one last thing we're going to see today is what happens if the user asks a question and there's no answer in the knowledge base, or there's no intent that match with these questions. So what happens in this case that you if there is a global no match response, which is the fallback response, and then you can edit it. So it can either be static or it can be generated with AI. So what you can do here is use AI to generate it. So what I could do here is modify the system prompt, and it could be just to give it more context. Again, your name is Lisa and your photo AI customer support assistant, and then save. So now whenever there's no answer to the user's question with the intent or the knowledge base, this AI prompt will take over and we'll answer the user using this system prompt. Just your, okay. There's other interesting settings here, such as the message delay. So here it's by default 1000 milliseconds. Or you also have the option to set global no reply. So what happens if the user says nothing for 10 or, well, it's up to you to choose the delay you want to set. The one last thing you need to know for today is how to actually add this chatbot to your website. Well, it's very simple. All you have to do is go back to integration here, copy paste this code snippet on your website, and that's it. You will have your chatbot embedded like it is here, and you can also customize the appearance over here. Now that we've gone over everything we had to do for today, let's try our bot one last time to see that everything is working as intended. So let's go back to designer and let's try our bot. Let's run the test. So this time let's say that it's not an existing photo AI user, so since I know, what can we ask? What type of pictures can I use with photo AI? Okay, so as you can see here, it's answering based on knowledge base. And now let's say no. Cool. Okay, so now we are done for today. Of course, there's many more features we could build with this bot, but I just wanted to give you a very quick but thorough overview of what you can do with Voiceflow. And we're done. So if you need any help with building your own AI bot, just let me know in the comment section and I do my best to answer. And if you found this video helpful in any way, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you soon for another video.